FM. This is a great country to live in called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Of course, there are different views from different people as to whether we are a sovereign, independent state or not. Some people say we are a self-governing country, but we're not truly independent. So you have these views even after 52 years as an independent nation. People are still wondering, are we truly independent? Yes or no? Now, what has happened is has created a lot of doubt in the minds of younger people in this country because we did not tell them or inform them on things that have occurred in this country even before 1967, what conditions were like in the country before 1967, January the 10th. That's some more than 58 years ago. And all of our young people are nowhere near 58 years. So they would be in their 20s, in their late, mid 20s, and probably early 30s. And that's fine. But I think they need to get to understand the history of this country, what went on before, so that they can have a better understanding and also to know what the Constitution says, because I was just talking to a young person. And it's interesting to hear views being said by these young people and what they have heard some others before them say about the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It is most important that we advise them correctly. We give them sound advice that they can work with. Now, young people have an opportunity to build a Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And let me just say to them, all the way back in 1967, I was right there, as young as I am. I was right there. That's more than 58 years ago. When it came to July the 10th, 1973, the election was held September of the 1972. That was one day after my birthday. And for the first time, young people were able to participate in the parliamentary process. That is 18 years old. 18-year-olds were able to vote. And they've been voting ever since, from that day up to now. And I asked this particular individual, what would you like to see happen? What is it you're looking for from a government? And I think young people need to consider that. People use the word change, but I was told that that is a vague word. That's not saying anything. Now, you hear a lot of people, or some people, let me put it this way, I say change is here. Change isn't coming. Change is here, whatever that's supposed to mean. And I hear this from a political party, the COI, Coalition of Independents. The point is, Bahamians, we have to get the facts as to what went down. Some of it, unfortunately, is not written. Some has been orally passed down from 67 right on up to now. And even some things that are written. You have some contradictory statements being made by those who were before these young people came on the scene. So I can understand the confusion that may be in their minds as to why they're thinking the way they do. But what is it you as young people want to see in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? You've been educated, you went to school, you went to university, you did this, you did that, you did the next thing. How can you bring change to your country? Now you got to understand what the Constitution says now. The Constitution says we are sovereign, independent, democratic state. That's an article in the Constitution. It starts off with that. Sovereign, independent, democratic state. Is that true or false? We're an independent nation. Some say we are just semi-independent. But we can't have this confusion. Either we are or we are not. We have the instruments of independence that, came from England. Prince Charles, as he was at that time, he's now King Charles in England, brought those instruments from his mother and gave those instruments to the Prime Minister at that time. Sir Lyndon Pinley became the first Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. If there are things that need to change, and the Constitution hasn't basically changed over these many years, 52 years to be exact, this coming July. In fact, today is the 10th of April. So we got April, May, June, July, 3 months before we hit 52 years. And I think we need to look at what has happened to us over that 52-year span. You can go back and read, and also read a lot of the legislation that has been passed by persons who were in the House of Assembly, persons who sat in the Senate. What is the purpose of the Senate? Do young people know that? And I asked this particular personality, what do you expect from a representative? What do you expect from the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? And I expect a lot of things, but they may be thinking differently from me. And of course, I'm going to play that tape, Mr. Blue, so you may want to put that in the system for me to use again today about a particular member of the governing party who has made a determination that he is not going to run again. And he made some very interesting remarks. And I think, Bahamians, we need to analyze what the individual said. See, I keep saying to you all the time, listen to what your leaders are saying. Watch what they do. Most of us haven't been doing that. Then you analyze it based on what the Constitution says. Every law that has been passed from 1729 right on up to now, because the House of Assembly started in 1729 in September. That's my birth month, by the way. I'm not sure the exact date when it was opened, but I could check that. But nevertheless, September of 1729, almost 300 years, Bahamians, 300 years of parliamentary democracy. Do you know of any other country that's had that? Do you know of any other country in the Western Hemisphere? And see, these are the things we don't even talk about. We let it lie in the dust. And we got our mouth full of what's happening in Haiti, what's happening in this country, what's happening in the Dominican Republic, where they just fight and kill up one another. They've had violent overthrows of government in both Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And in some of those other Caribbean nations. It happened in Jamaica too. The thing is that we don't pay attention to what has happened from 1729, when the House of Assembly opened, right on up to today, April the 10th, 2025. And we have had peaceful transition from one administration to the next. First, we were the Bahama Islands. Then we became an independent nation, July the 10th, 1973. We don't tell that to the world. We listen to the world talking about violence, this, and who killed this one, who killed the next one. And you have a bloody history. And some people believe because when we got our independence, July the 10th, 1970, we didn't have to fight for it. Give me a break, Bahamians. My mother and father fought for that. My grandparents fought for that. We need to tell our children what we fought for. It was not handed to us on a piece of paper. Some of you have been told that crap. But I happen to know better, Bahamians, because I was right there. I was there right there, January the 10th, 1967. And there's still some around who were there from the very beginning. So we got to get the thing straight, Bahamians. Now, some people, their memories fade and they forget they have this problem, that problem, the next problem. Maybe they got dementia or something. That's why things have to be written down, Bahamians, or recorded. We got all this modern technology. You ain't got to write nothing now. You could just record it and it's preserved for posterity. You could even take video photos and all of that. So we can't say we don't have the equipment to record what we do or what we say and things that occur in this country. We can accurately record it. So if the fellow forget, we can say, now listen, see, this happened July the 5th, 1973. This happened August the 5th, 1973, and whatever other year you want to refer to. Perhaps the Bahamas is the most peaceful country in the Western Hemisphere. Do you understand how important that is, Bahamians? We need to promote that. No matter what them fellas doing in the United States, they have their own interests for that nation, and you can't blame them for that. And some of us are here cowering as to what's going to happen to the Bahamas if we can get any more food. We only got enough food stocks for about 3 months because we're depending on the United States. We're not looking at what we have internally. And of course, I heard another host was saying that we need to work with our Caribbean brothers. I don't have a problem working with them, but there are some things we cannot accept. Do you know that, Bahamians? We are the closest to the United States of America. We're supposed to be, quote unquote, an ally to the United States. But we haven't had an ambassador in 14 years, and we still don't have one. Now let them tell us why. Ask the government of the Bahamas why. We had an ambassador from 1973 in Washington. They ain't stopped. So how come they stopped? These are the things you have to look at, Bahamians. Listen to what they say and watch what they do. I'm still trying to see if I could find that tape what the Secretary of State said about Cuba. But I have the tape on what the Charge d'Affaires said. They said they sent this out to all countries around the world. You can't lump the Bahamas with all them other people out there. If you have a problem with the Bahamas, then say what the problem is or what it is you see we may be doing that perhaps you might think differently about it. And let's deal with that. But I don't want to hear about you send it all over. And then you made some statements about you're saying we are not really caught up with hiring people as slaves or paying slave wages to the Cubans, and they're not getting what they should be getting. Of course, we have laws in this country. You know, the Constitution doesn't support slavery. You have to tell people that, because sometimes they just forget, you know. So you got to put it in the Constitution, it's there. No man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone. Do you know that, Bahamians? What you thought it was put there for? Just to look pretty, just to take up space? No. That is what we are to go by as a nation. Now, if you got some people you done elect and they ain't doing the right thing, now there's a way to deal with that, Bahamians. We do not have to follow what those other nations south of us have been doing. Juke up, shoot up, slaughter, burn down the building, do all kind of funny things. Then you got to still go build them back up, right? See the House of Assembly in Parliament Square? It's been there for a long time. It's a testament to the stability that has remained in the Bahamas from 1729 right on up to now. There's a reason for that. The Bahamian people have a different disposition. You see, that's why I tell you I have a problem with this suicide thing, what they keep talking about. And I've said publicly, Bahamians do not commit suicide. But there are some people say, no, Professor, that ain't true. Bahamians do commit suicide. Well, if they're Bahamian like me, who believe in God and trust in God and rely on God and depend on God, you are not suicidal. Impossible to be suicidal. Now, you may have some other little problems, but suicide is not one of them. It's going to be very difficult for you to convince me that the average Bahamian, see, I got plenty in my family. I've been looking 7 generations deep. I can't find one thread of evidence. The oldest members in this family, those in the middle, those that are at the very bottom, I know they like food, they like eat. I got to have money to feed them. And we just take care of our children. We take care of our people. We don't let them be stranded. Neither do they like eat. Say, Daddy, what are we going to have today? And they're looking for something to eat. That's not a problem. That's a responsibility we have. So we got to take care of that. And you got to send them to school. My mother and father sent us to school, gave us a higher education, which they themselves didn't have. So we got to pass it on to the children. What you expect? They have better opportunities today than perhaps we had in earlier generations. But we have to take these problems that we have very seriously. Stop listening to any Tom, Dick, Mary, Harry, and Jane that come by to tell you this and tell you that from those other entities outside this country and from people within the country who get foolishness and nonsense in their head and say, this is the way we should go. No, there's only one way we should go, the Holy Bible and the Constitution. That's the route we ought to take because we are to be a nation under God. Where's God in all of this? The decisions that the government of the Bahamas has to make, where is God in all of our national affairs? Where is God? One host was saying we should hook up with them, people in the Caribbean, for us to survive. No, we survive by God, not by the Caribbean. What kind of crap is that? That doesn't mean we shouldn't have friendly relations with them, because some of them funny things they got down there, we cannot accept that. Because we would not have been here as we are now if we fall into that foolishness and that nonsense. Now, they may have some things that make sense. And it is good to have good, normal relations with your neighbors, but not eat up all the crap they put out there. When they was getting their things and benefiting, they ain't give us nothing. We thought they gave us something. They didn't give us 1 cent. We just happened to be in a geographical location that they are not. We did not take full advantage of our geographical location because we don't seem to understand the importance of it. The United States knows. Canada knows. Well, how the hell we don't know? And God has strategically placed us. Even China recognized that. So everybody wants to cash in on what we have, and we ourselves don't seem to understand what's going on. How we get like that? Because a lot of people telling you a pile of crap. So you are not thinking straight, Bahamians. That's why you need your Holy Bible, one, and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. Listen, let me just say this to you before I bring my guest in. Because he's sitting here patiently. I don't tell him I'll talk till Christ come back, if you mind me. The thing is, the Constitution is never, ever wrong. I want you to get that, young Bahamians. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is never, ever wrong. It is always right. Now, let that sink into your psyche. Because it's very important that you understand that. Now, the next one. The Holy Bible is never, ever wrong. It is always right. You hear what I tell you, Bahamians? Always. So when God tells you something, you ain't got to worry about that. That's the way it is. It's always right. And the Constitution is always right. Now, you can reject the two of these two documents that are always right to listen to the crap from these other people. Come on, Bahamians, we got to do better than this. Our mothers and fathers would be ashamed of us to turn our backs on the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas and the Holy Bible, to listen to foolishness and nonsense from these other people. That would be the detriment of this country. Only because of the grace of God are we here, April the 10th, 2025. Don't mind them other fellas talking foolishness and nonsense. Ain't nothing to do with them. Did they wake you up this morning? Did they give you every breath of oxygen you breathe? The answer is no. Some of them may wake up themselves. God has providentially protected the Bahamas in spite of its weaknesses because he has a job for us to do. We don't seem to understand how important that is. So you have to move some people out of the way. That's what's going to have to happen. So I'm going to say to young people, you must rely on the Holy Bible and the Constitution. If you're going to move this country forward, stop listening to the crap from this one, that one, and the next one out there who are telling you all kind of foolishness and nonsense. Because you see, they're going to bring that up, you know. You will notice they'll never say anything about the Holy Bible. That's one. They'll never say anything about the Constitution. That's two. So you know when they don't include the Holy Bible, which is the written word of God, always right, always will ever be right, and the Constitution, which is always right. It is never ever wrong. When they leave them two out, you know they're talking foolishness and nonsense. So just analyze what they say, Bahamians. Don't let people talk about being not an independent nation. Stop talking foolishness and nonsense. But that kind of nonsense has come right on down over the last 52 years. Now, we may have some problem with the personalities who are running the place. Now, that's a different kettle of fish. If they are not going according to the Constitution, my brothers and sisters out there, there's a way we could deal with that very simply. That ain't no difficult process. I don't know why people screaming their head off, oh, woe is me, we're going to have Cuba coming and raid us. The Russians are coming in. What kind of nonsense are you talking? Have you seen any from 1729? God has protected the Bahamas from the beginning, and he will protect us right to the very end, till the second coming of Christ. Because we have some people in this place who rely on God. They pray to God every single day, every single night, while you out there doing foolishness and nonsense. Even though he be along with us who cry to him day and night, he said, I will avenge them speedily. God knows just when to move at the right time and the right place to cut this crap down. And you're going to see that happen, baby. You're going to see some people just disappear because they're doing foolishness and nonsense. See, God gives you an opportunity to change. That's why people they can't say they didn't have an opportunity to change. I know since my conversion 54 years ago, being the most senior member in the church today, where I attend, because I asked Pastor, make sure I check that record now. And there's no one in the church longer than I was there, not a living one. And I told them I'm here till Christ come back. So they laughed. I said, you stay right there. If you don't want to be here, that's your problem. It ain't nothing to do with me. But Professor Sidney Walter Thompson like to live. I like living because I've seen so many young people disappear under my feet. I'm very disappointed. Young people are supposed to succeed the older people, but you see mothers are burying their daughters, fathers are burying their sons. What kind of nonsense is this? I get all mixed up like that. Isaac and Ishmael buried Abraham. And let me tell you this, young people, Isaac had to wait 75 years before he took over. Now, some of you might have a problem with that. You ask God why that is so. I can't answer that for you. But he had to wait 75 years. And while Abraham was alive, Eleazar was in charge of every single thing. Isaac had nothing to do with that. But he knew, because Abraham told him Isaac would take over from him, because Isaac was being trained to take over the leadership. So there was a smooth transition. So the servants knew what they were supposed to do. But we have to do the same thing here. Now, some say, well, let these older people sit on the side and let's bring all these young people in, take over everything. You think you can move God? God has been around longer than all of us. You want this? You want God to move too? Is that what you're telling God? Anytime you do that to the senior members of your nation, you're doing it to God. And God say, okay, I can take plenty of y'all out of the way and I can leave them right there. Is that what you want, Bahamians? Instead of having the order where the son buries the father, the grandson buries his father. That's how God put the order in. But I ain't going nowhere. I can be here till the man come back. Had the music in the background. But I can't I can bring you in after the music, when we go to the next after the break. But Bahamians, please, let's get serious about building the nation, okay? And stop listening to people talking crap all the time. Listen to what God has to say. Listen to what the Constitution says. It is always right. Don't mind them people passing funny laws in the House of Assembly. We could change it, Bahamians. That's the beauty of the democracy we have. We can change it. What is not right, we line it up right according to the Constitution and move this country forward. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break.
Express.
Happening even as I was speaking to you. I got some new information. Of course, you're going to hear about that a little bit later. But let me introduce my special guest who is here every Thursday. Brother Cartwright, welcome to the Express Yourself on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM.
Well, a pleasant good afternoon, Professor, to the producer and the Global 99.5 wide audience all around the world. As you know, Professor, this is now unofficially the election season. And as you notice, you're starting to hear bits and pieces of who's dropping out, who stuff. And when you look at all of that, plus with the tariffs around the world,
Yes.
uh, just yesterday, they had a small groundbreaking for a new community slash clinic hospital because some of the details I saw what they plan to do in the St. Barnabas area. First time I've known a clinic to have a morgue, so it means that they're upgrading the standard.
Okay.
And so they're talking about um, providing ambulance assistance to it. So it's like, well, it's different because normally when you hear
Yes.
clinic,
Yes.
it isn't much they offer. So
Yes.
the minister was claiming that he's looking at about 15 months to have it completed.
Okay.
Well, like I say to myself, I don't hold my breath. I'm like Doubting Thomas. I see
Yeah.
it till I believe it when I see it.
Yes, I would
But
too.
so it tells you that there's a lot of things happening around our town. You see where the prime minister's them saying that it was an administrative error with $183 million. And I was like, how could you make a
How to
mistake
make
like
a
that?
mistake like that.
So it's telling you now that everybody is a little walking on eggshells now because this
Yes.
election, everybody's trying not to make no mistakes. But with these tariffs, and I try to tell people is that, we've got to understand that the US and China are basically yin and yang to each other.
Yes.
The Americas is biggest strategic business partner is China
Yes.
and vice versa.
That's right.
And one of the things that we need to start doing, and which I thought the government would have been more eager to promote, was us feeding ourselves.
Exactly.
So it would have cut down on the tariffs effect, and even where we could even start canning and doing
Of
other
course.
things.
Yes.
I've heard on another show there was a young candidate speaking from Long Island, was saying these are some of the things that she wanted to do, and I was like, we used to do it.
Yes, we used
So-
to. Yes.
To hear people now looking at it, and I was like, if our parliament understands that we will always have these little global tariff wars,
Yes.
we've got to start looking at ourselves. What can we do
What can we do?
to ease the blow? Do not wait until it comes to your door, then you start
And you
panicking.
start packing. Yeah.
So I would hope that the powers to be would understand that, hey, these are things that you have to, because the world has changed. The world has changed. And so you have to now become a great negotiator because, we basically, as an open, we don't know, the Bahamas is the gateway to this hemisphere.
Of course.
And we have not really taken advantage of our
Precisely.
strategic location.
Location. Yes.
I always just tell people over and over, and I was like, why can't we have our own container port? They say, oh, well, they got the Grand Bahama. I said, but that doesn't
No.
belong to us. Basically,
No.
the land might be, but majority
But
of
the
the business
Yeah,
itself,
the business itself. We don't own it.
we don't own it.
That's right.
And I said, now, if it's me, I would try to find out if whoever these business partners is who running the Grand Bahama shipyard and other things, I would like to find their parent company and buy into their stock so I can basically offload some of my pressure of me going to tax my people.
Exactly.
And, also things such as we need to now make decisions whereby that, for instance, that lady also talked about banking in the islands where they don't have banks. And it's like,
Oh, yes.
as a government, we need to now look at basically doing business with our internal banks,
Yes.
strengthen them, and then make the foreign entities now have to come and adjust to play on that playing field.
Of course.
Because when you do it, basically offset the local banks, the major banks can say, well, look, if you do that to them, you ain't got to worry about them. They just got to come to us. And so you got to now reverse this trend that we always rely on and heavily depend on. We've got to now start looking, really making the playing field level for the Bahamians. I told someone this morning, I said, foreign banks say, well, they ain't giving no more interest, so everyone follows suit. I said, but what if the Bahamian banks say, you know what, we can do the reverse? People now want you to come put your money in our bank and we start to pay you interest.
Right.
And they say, well, what do you think the foreign banks say? Well, they'll have to comply. If they don't comply, then so
Then you
be it.
withdraw all your money.
Yeah. So he laughed. He said, I never thought of it that way. I said, you have
You
to.
got to think.
You've got to now think outside the box.
Yes,
We've got so much things here that we can basically sustain ourselves.
that's correct.
But we just have, I always say, short-sighted leadership in our parliament. You know, you ask questions, you don't get answers.
No, you
And
don't.
then people just walk away.
Yes,
Say, okay, well, that's their answer. They don't have to. No, you have to answer. And you got to be vigilant in getting answers. Like you always ask that concerning your community,
yes, I do.
those who we send to parliament. And I always tell someone this last night, I said, he said, well, who you think you reach? I said, no, I can't tell you what to vote, who to vote for. But I said, you can ask questions about your community
Of
that you
course.
feel that is important to you. Ask them how they would address it. Don't tell them, you don't want to hear what the party's going to
No,
do.
you're not interested in that.
You want to know, if I send you to parliament, will you be able to argue these points of
Exactly.
interest for me?
Yes,
And he said, I never thought about that. I said, but that's what we have to do. I said, it isn't nothing personal about individuals, because I said, a lot of these individuals are great persons as a person,
right.
but as a parliamentarian,
As a whole horse of a different color.
it's very lacking. And
Very
so I
much
always
so.
tell people, I say, be vigilant. I say, don't get caught up in them colors. Ask the pertinent questions that concerns you,
Yes,
and then you can listen to what they say, and you can make your decision from there. And I think that's where we now are headed, because this is a country now, and I keep telling people, Bahamians are not as non-vocal or non-paying attention now. Bahamians are now seriously paying attention to what is happening in the landscape. They're wondering what's happening in the country.
yes,
And they are now asking, because I heard a member of parliament one time said that he don't believe in people getting free money. And I was like, what do you call free money? And I said to myself, and I smiled. And he said, I heard some other people talk about it's like a pie in the sky. And I said, I don't think he understands that the average person on the street is saying, hold on, for years I trusted you to do my bidding, to look for my
Exactly.
interest.
yes,
And he's now saying, you know what? I don't trust you no more.
yes,
Now, even if the other guy might make sense or clearly what he wants to do, giving out money, but at least he's saying something that might give me a little bit of peace of
of course.
mind. And I said, you can't take that away from the Bahamian public.
No,
So if you could come behind that other individual and explain carefully and clearly, then people might look at you in that same way. But don't criticize and call things a pie in the sky. That's like you thinking like an elitist.
yes.
And you got to
Defeated
understand. Yeah.
attitude, yes.
And I said, when you look at it, the average Bahamian, I said, over and over, if we could basically combine everything that we have in this country, all of our wealth, we could basically move this country forward
Of course
without
we
borrowing
can.
money.
That's
I
right.
think we might have a caller. Okay.
Clip.
yes.
Oh, okay.
We now
Yeah.
go to that clip.
Mr. Belusa is saying we have the clip. Mr. Belusa, put on the clip, please. Thank you.
I won't sugarcoat the dangers we are facing right now due to the escalating trade tensions around the world. A new 10% base rate tariff for goods imported into the United States now applies to more than 100 countries, including ours. If the 10% tariff on Bahamian goods imported into the United States remains, Bahamian exporters in multiple industries will soon feel the impact. We have been in contact with U.S. officials regarding the change in policy, and we are working with fellow Caribbean countries on collective diplomatic efforts. We are also speaking with Bahamian exporters and working to understand whether there are short-term policies we could enact to cushion the fallout. I've seen Bahamians show enormous strength and ingenuity during the most difficult times. Together, we can trust in God's grace and take comfort in knowing our fellow Bahamians are capable of great compassion and resilience.
Brother Cartwright, I'm going to let you comment and I'll comment after. Go ahead.
It is sad that in everything in this country, when you look at our leaders, they do not prepare us for actions that them in that position should see coming.
Exactly.
They always wait until something happens, then they react. And then they now telling the average citizen, okay, now we're going to need you to brace yourself for this, because this you should have. If we could see it at the bottom, how come you can't see it at the top? What are the measures are you planning to help us now deal with this pressure? Because number one, we know once you start talking that, automatically you can start looking at the food stores and other business. You can say, wow, we can know the price going up. They can always tell you, well, we didn't mean to, but because we couldn't get this stuff in, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. You are the head of the horse.
Yeah.
You should know how to ride this carriage. I just need more excuses because to me, it's like it sounds like an excuse. He's trying to say, well, if things don't work out, well, you know, this blame this one, blame that one. But you are the man in charge. You were given a mandate to make life better.
Yes.
You should have seen these things coming to be. So everyone was talking about it before he started talking about it. So why is the leader of the country the last person to speak to issues that everybody on the street has been talking about?
That's an interesting comment. And you know, I listened to what the Prime Minister said, and it saddens me to see that, like you said, that they just do not seem to prepare the nation ahead of time. We see the signs ahead of us that some things are brewing, and yet we wait until it falls on us. Then we begin to scramble to say, we're going to talk to the people in the United States, we're going to talk to our Caribbean neighbors and so on. Based on what he said, I don't see anything that is definite cause of action to take. Okay? Now you talk about the resilience of the Bahamian people. You know, a lot of people are getting wary of some words that politicians use all the time, and yet they keep suffering. We suffer because of the mistakes, the national sins of the government of the Bahamas. Because, see, they're the only ones who could commit national sins. We can't do that.
No.
The thing is that our leaders have to learn to understand that there are things that hurt us. They have the authority, they have the power. The people gave them the power to do some things. They've always had, and see, here's another thing what I'm going to stress right now. They've always had the majority of seats in the House of Assembly and in the Senate to do anything that is good for the Bahamian people. And they have failed us to do that for 52 years. Every single administration. None of them could say, oh, well, we didn't have enough votes to get this passed. They've had an abundance of votes in the Senate and in the House. So what is he talking about? Why we have to wait until the United States decide to put a 10% tariff on us? Things that are going to be imported to the United States. Why we have to wait for that? We couldn't see that coming. We have our shipping lanes. Are we using them wisely? What benefit are we getting from those ships that plow our seas in this nation? There are so many things that we have available to us internally that we are not utilizing. And we're right here suffering. We can wait till the man say, and then another thing with the jet ski operators, we have problems there because the U.S. Embassy has made some statements about that. They're negotiating with the government. And I see how the Minister of
National Security.
National Security, yeah. You see, they don't give that kind of respect to Bahamians when we cry out about something. But they're quick to run because some embassy made a statement or a couple of statements. Bing! They're at the beck and call of the embassy, but not at the beck and call of the Bahamian people. What kind of nonsense is this? Are we here just to benefit tourists? Come on, government. I mean, see, the government continues to fall up and make these mistakes because the governor of the Bahamas has never repented of anything they did wrong. And even though the Bahamian people cry out and point these things out to them, because I do it all the time, even with this situation with the citizenship of this country, they're headstrong in granting naturalization, as they call it. to some strangers, foreigners, aliens outside, which is totally contrary to the Constitution. They are deliberately and intentionally violating the Constitution. Amos, you need to understand how serious this is, you know. Yet the man going to come back and talk about they're going to negotiate with people in Washington and making statements about our Caribbean. We got to know exactly what the heck you're doing. Because those broad statements like that don't mean anything to me. What is it specifically we're talking about when it comes to the United States? What is it that we're specifically talking about when it comes to our Caribbean? Because some of them funny things down there, but you want no part of that. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't have relationships with the Caribbean nations, because we had one talk show who said we must band together with them. Some funny things that they have in those countries, Bahamians cannot accept. And we need to differentiate what it is that is good for us and what is bad for us. We have had peaceful transitions of administration from 1729 right on up to April the 10th, 2025. No other country in the Western Hemisphere has that kind of record. Do you think we exploit that? No, we don't. We talk the crap about people south of us who don't know how to behave, keep overthrowing their governments, and then they say they want to have themselves make the decision. Well, go ahead and make a decision then. And stop waiting for others to do it for you. Because they know how to fight and keep killing up one another and tearing down and so on and so on. The Bahamians are not of that disposition. So why are we lumping ourselves with that kind of foolishness and nonsense? There's some things that are good for the Bahamas, and there's some things that are bad for the Bahamas. Our leaders don't seem to differentiate the truth. Because the thing is, they're not listening to us who are genuine Bahamian citizens. That's their problem. Because we wouldn't be in the crap we're in today if they would listen to us who live here, who experience these things. Oh, you know what he's talking about. Oh, she know what you're talking about. But you pay all this money out to consultants, strangers, foreigners, aliens, outsiders, giving you a lot of bad advice, including the Attorney General. Because he done deceived them and making them believe they could take ordinary law to change constitutional law, which is utter nonsense and foolishness. But we let them get away with the crap. That's what bugs me. They are not listening to Bahamians, yet they say how resilient we are. Huh? They're taking advantage of us because we're the type of people who don't break up the place, go downtown and burn the place down like some other people do in other places. And they take advantage of the fact they use our calmness for weakness. That's what the government of Bahamas is doing, because they're not listening to the Bahamian people. The point is, Bahamians, we've got to see what the government is doing. Don't mind the smart remarks made by the Prime Minister, because we could see straight through them. He has had the opportunity over 3 years, going on 4. What major national problems has his administration solved? That's what we need to ask him. We're tired of hearing this crappy talk, man. Let us see some solutions. We need a national government. And Bahamians, I can stress this. We need a national government in this country that is going to solve national problems. Anything less than that is weightless. We're spending billions of dollars. But yet we can't see no solution. What happened? This initiative, that initiative, this talk, that talk, the next talk. And at the end of the day, the average Bahamian writing this law. Bahamians, we got to stop this foolishness, man. You are not telling the government of the Bahamas to stop this crap that they are doing, misleading and deceiving the Bahamian people. You're not telling that to your representative who sits in the House of Assembly. Supposed to be parliamentary representative, but he has a parliamentary seat, but not using it. to the advantage of Bahamians. We got one fellow say he ain't running again. Mr. Producer, make sure I put that in the system because I want to play that again. Because the thing is, you need to listen to what these fellas are saying to you. You falling asleep, Bahamians. You better listen to the crap they coming out of their mouth. That's why I'm glad we have these tapes, so you could hear it for yourself. Because if I read it from the paper, you say, oh, Professor, ain't reading the thing straight. But you'll hear it yourself, Bahamians. That's why we work hard to get the clips so we could put it on the air, let you hear it, we hear it, then we comment on it. And we ain't taking nothing away from them. If they talk crap, that's what they say. That's what it is, Bahamians. You and I need to correct it because they are not capable of correcting the problems we have. Right now, we're confronted with major problems. And the government of the Bahamas hasn't even a clue as to what to do about it. The President of the United States, he got his own interests. We can tie ourselves to that. That embassy got their own interests. I didn't talk about being an ally. Ally my foot. No ambassador in more than 14 years. Give me a break. Why is that? Did the embassy ever tell us that? Did the government ever ask about that? Why? We have an ambassador in Washington, and yet we're going to have the Consul General in Florida. Boy, this really pissed me off. I'm not saying what he said is not correct. I'm simply saying we got someone high up the chain, man. And you hear peep squeak from Wendell Jones in Washington. But did he made an ambassador in Washington? And yet you got a consul general telling the Bahamians, and not a living one of them came to his office to say, I want to get home. Not a one. I mean, right round here talking foolishness and nonsense. Come on, Bahamians, we got to wake up. Why is it that they didn't come? What is the real problem? We need to understand what's going on. Go on, Brother Cartwright.
Yeah, Professor. If you notice, I think this is the first time in the history of our country during the election up to be season where you're starting to see people either dropping out or
that is correct,
or basically being denied. And now you see
they come into that.
Even their constituents in some cases have said, we don't want this and this.
Oh,
and that.
Yes.
And
oh,
so
yes.
You're starting to see a quiet revolution where now the political parties now going to start to have to understand that, hey, the people are not just taking the crap you give them over the years. And the longer you go down that road, you're going to see more rebellious people stand up and tell you, listen, we had enough.
Yes.
And it's sad that when you look at the landscape of this country, you know, I was just telling someone the other day, I said, you know, we look at our islands, 700 islands. And I said, you know, I haven't heard nobody in the House of Assembly talk about this upcoming hurricane season.
No.
How are we going to prepare ourselves?
Not a living one.
What do we have in place if we have not a Dorian catastrophic hurricane, but a hurricane that might do some damage to one of our major islands? How are we prepared to handle that situation financially, medically, physically? So all of these things, and I was like, we have not really taken, and this is, we keep looking at, oh, we can put everybody, go back to the old school, put them in the church. And I was like, those structures was not designed for hurricane.
No, they never were.
You know, and I keep asking parliamentarians, I said, listen, man, why has no one ever gotten up and speak to creating a national disaster fund?
Yes.
So that we could basically help those when crisis come.
Yes, we need
that
it.
they can help themselves, you know,
Yes.
but we always sit back and then we go to, you know, we go to NIB, social service, and it's like we running around like a dog chasing his tail
Exactly.
over and over. And it's like, we've been lucky over the last 3 years not to have a major hurricane.
That is true. You're quite right.
Because I said, what would have happened if we had, because when you look at what we keep hearing our governments do is that the administration would go and take out a loan. And then they turn around and take out a loan not to pay off the first loan, but to pay down on the loan where they just got the
But they
first
just
loan.
got before.
So
yeah.
they don't never pay off the
Never
original
pay
loan.
off. Never.
And I was like, what are we doing? Then we see our leader when he travels, and it was amazing. And one headline said that since 2021, our prime minister has spent $58 million in travel expenses. And I was like, whoa, what did we get in return for that 58 million? I said, I have no problem with you talking about your climate change, but what does that have to do with us? Because we are a country still using fossil fuel.
Yes, we are.
So if you're going to talk about climate change and you got the cruise ships parked up inside your harbor, puffing a lot of smoke and stuff into the
That's right.
atmosphere.
That's right.
So where is this climate change you talking about effect when you basically in violation yourself?
You are in violation. And see, these are the things what the government of Bahamas is not looking at. And it is something that the Bahamian people have to bring to the attention of leaders. I doubt very seriously if you're going to see any significant change from the current administration. They're now into their fourth year and they're not doing anything. That's why I keep asking, what major national problems have they solved on behalf of the Bahamian people? And here are the clear-cut benefits that come to the Bahamian people as it relates to these national problems having been solved. All the Prime Minister said in that speech is problems. He has no solution. That's all he has. And then can say how resilient we are, right? But we are suffering out here because of things that the government of the Bahamas is doing. They're the ones who are creating the problems. They're not listening to genuine Bahamians as to how we can improve the welfare of this country. They're not. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. My special guest there, Brother Cartwright. He comes in every Thursday. We're glad to have him. And he's going to add a lot to the show today. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. The lines are open 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. We'll be back after the break.
Express Yourself Live will return right after this.
Keep the Bible on Decent Group presents the Legends of Rake and Spray. Get ready for the biggest names in Bahamian music.
We have all kind of problems, and the government of the Bahamas doesn't seem to have any solution because the clip we made, we heard from the Prime Minister. There are no solutions in that. He is just telling us, one, we're going to talk to them people in the United States. Number two, we're going to see what we could do with our Caribbean people or leaders, and perhaps have a collective approach to deal with the crisis that the U.S. government is putting out over on 100 nations plus. All right? Okay, fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But the government of the Bahamas has the vast majority of seats in the House of Assembly, 32 out of 39. And if the current administration is serious about doing anything that is good for the Bahamian people, they have the numbers to do it. This is what I keep saying to us about as an electorate. We don't seem to understand. You're giving a political party all these seats, all the way back from 1967. Or let me say from 68, because it's just a majority of one. 67 to 68. But from 68 right on up to now, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has had a landslide of seats. Do you understand how important that is? You see the kind of confidence the electorate put in the persons who are in governance today? And you see all the crap they've been doing? All that time, anything good and proper for the Bahamian people, they had the numbers and still have it today. Now the man can't come up with no solutions or nothing. All he could tell us about problems. But he has nothing in his hand to say, Bahamians, this is what the government is going to be doing to fight this problem that we are confronted with. They like to play games with us talking about resiliency while we're still suffering, you know. It is them who put this problem on us. You gave them the authority, Bahamians. That's what has pissed me off. You gave them a massive landslide to say they could go and sit in the House and pass every single thing to benefit the Bahamian people. Bing, 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 bing. Right on down the line. They never did it. But we got all kinds of problems. And Bahamians, we got to look at that. You're giving a political party overwhelming majority of seats from 68 right on up to now. Where have we benefited? Billions of dollars have been spent, Bahamians. Look at the constituencies. That's one. Major constituency problems that have existed from 1968 right on up to now ain't solved yet. Hasn't been solved yet. In fact, you've had more problems created in these constituencies from 68 right on up to now. You know how long that is, Bahamians? And yet they can talk about the junk bonds. The man say your money is junk. It's junk. It's weightless. It means nothing, Bahamians. Can we get that into the psyche of our leaders? The man just look at you as a pile of junk. That's them putting the rating on us, you know. And we are content with a grade lower than F. Come on, Bahamians. What are we thinking? How our leaders are thinking? They must be thinking we're really stupid and foolish. Even grade school children could understand that junk. But your leaders don't seem to understand that. But Lucy, I don't know if you could find the tape that the Prime Minister was talking about this rating agency. If you can find it, please put it together. But the point is, Bahamians, you cannot take comfort in that.
No.
And then when they say something that they don't like, they say, oh, no, we ain't want that. But because they say you are whatever B rating, whatever talk they use, because the average person don't understand what they're talking about. Explain what that means to the woman in Baintown with them 5 boys and the man in Fox. At least they'll tell me he ain't find no sons-in-law. God, right. We got to help him to find some sons-in-law for them 6 daughters. I need you to help me with that. But the thing is, Bahamians, we have an administration that doesn't seem to understand the purpose of protecting the interests of the Bahamian people. I don't understand why we let them get away with all this foolishness. from 68 right on up to now, Bahamians. It's too long, man. How we let this happen? And we don't seem to be any better off as average citizens in this country than ever before. We were so. Mr. Producer, you have that tape in. Play it for me, please.
With much prayer and fast. They were a bit disappointed because, you know, we work hand in hand together. It was nothing to do with just me, myself, but it was the whole constituency of Northern Lucha. We worked hand in hand with getting things done. And so they were a bit disappointed. But I tell them mentally I need a break. I spoke to my family, you know, with much prayer and fasting. So, you know, I just decided to take a break. But definitely within 5 years, I'll be back. Definitely.
Are you
I thought you should play that tape, but the other man asked him about it. But anyhow, well, you played enough. Brother Cartwright, see if you could analyze what this particular personality is saying. I can have my say when you finish.
I don't know if that ruckus in the house with the mace thrown out the window has tampered with the deputy speaker attitude towards the parliament, because he sounds that he seemed to be excited to be leaving parliament.
Yes.
Most fellas would stand and dig in, but he's more enthusiastic about leaving. So maybe he sees something down the road that it isn't going to be a blessing to him. So he decided to basically hit the door before the door hits him.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because as I'm referring to what you were saying earlier, we've heard so many speeches come from this administration.
Yes.
And one of the speeches that I've always been in my head since it came out was from the Deputy Prime Minister, where he is pleading for 5 more years. And I was like, if you ain't complete one major task to affect our lives positively
Yes.
in 1 year,
In 1 year.
why would you want us to give you 5 more years to basically try and complete that one task?
That doesn't make sense.
Don't make sense to me. And you know what has bothered me so much, and when I'm now reflecting on this parliament, I told someone that this parliament is more ineffective than the previous parliament under the former administration,
Okay.
because you have an effective administration and you also have an ineffective opposition.
Yes, you do.
So when you got a double dose of ineffectiveness,
Oh, boy.
the
In
country
trouble.
really, and we starting to see it.
Yes.
And when you said that but people, they now say that people suffering from stress and suicidal,
Yes.
I was like, maybe people don't see it this way, but maybe those people who are really suffering look at our parliament and say, man, I cannot take this.
That's right.
There's no solution from what I see.
Exactly.
And so now they're frustrated, and then they
Frustrated.
sit down and then you hear the Minister of Health say, well, if you see your friend or your neighbor or your family look trouble, talk to them. And I was like,
But the neighbors got trouble
the
too.
fellow got
What
his own,
happened to him?
his own
His
problem.
own problem.
For you now to tell him, add
Talk.
somebody else's problem to
Oh,
his.
boy.
I was like, y'all ain't put nothing in place
Nothing.
to relieve these people. Are basically, and I was telling someone they said, you know, Bahamians ain't have a problem in finding work, you know. Bahamians are now looking and seeing that the work you're offering, and when you look at the compensation for that work,
Yeah.
you are basically making the Bahamian citizens beggars in their own country.
Yes.
That's the frustration they have.
That's
Because when
plenty.
you look around the country, even on our main thoroughfare right here, Bay Street,
Yeah,
hardly anyone you see working on this strip speaks English.
that is true.
So how you expect for the average Bahamian, when he comes downtown to go shopping or to go to work, he's already disenfranchised because he's like, what is there for me?
Yes.
And then he looks towards the one place that he figures that would give him some answers. All he hears is rumblings and murmuring, and he's like, well, what I can do? And if you try to do something, the first thing they tell you, well, hey, it's against the law.
Exactly.
So you have you have this situation whereby that this parliament session right now is probably one of the most ineffective parliament we've had in a very, very, very long time.
Oh boy.
Because even when we had the last administration, you had 4 members in opposition. They're more louder than what we see now.
Yes. Yes.
And if you look at our opposition now, it's in a complete shambles.
Yeah, complete shambles. You're quite right about that. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But I would have thought there was a little bit more to the tape, Mr. Producer, because I know I heard it before. But I wanted to play it again because a portion of it seems to be missing. For example, the parliamentarian spoke about the water and about the light in Eleuthera, North Eleuthera. Okay? And apparently, yeah, play that one then. Because I want the people to hear the whole thing and I can comment on it.
With much prayer and fasting. So, I just decided to take a break. But definitely within 5 years, I'll be back. Definitely.
Are you proud of your track record, I guess, what you would have accomplished in North Eleuthera this term?
We got a lot done. For example, with the Minister of Energy, we were always having issues with the power in Harbour Island. And right now, it's been over a year now, we've had no issues with the power at all. With the water, we've been having 1 or 2 little problems that we're just fine tuning right now. But I would say with my track record, yeah, we did a lot. I'm pretty much pleased by it. I mean, more could be done, and I'm sure after I take my break, I definitely will be back to do more.
That's an interesting way to end. But listen, you talked about the water and you talked about the light. Now, I want someone in North Eleuthera, if you could call the show today, tell me on this 10th day of April, 2025, what is the position in Eleuthera as it relates to the light? That's number 1. Number 2, to the water. Now, light and water are essential for the survival of a people. He said more could have been done, but he said he can be back. Well, that's political hack. I am not paying much attention to that. He said more could have been done, but he's taking a break. And after much prayer and fasting and consultation, talk to family and all that kind of thing. The point is, this particular person is the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly.
Yes.
Which means he has carriage over all those things that have been passed in that House. The Speaker has jurisdiction over all of that when it comes to the law, because some funny things were passed in there. And it seems, as Brother Cartwright said, that he seemed to be happy to go. Now he's talking about he coming back. Give me a break, man. See, this is why, Bahamas, you listen carefully to what these fellas are saying. Huh? And you see, it got to make sense. Now, I want someone to tell me from North Eleuthera, because he said that, he's been working on some other things. And, he mentioned the water and the light. I just want to deal on those 2. Because, see, if you have the light off today, it comes on tomorrow. Then it's off next week. Are you telling me that's sufficient for the people of Eleuthera? Because, see, if you don't have sustained electricity over the years, you don't have sustained water supply over the years. See, in Fort Castle, we always had water. Ain't no shortage of water up there. So that's not a problem for Fort Castle. But I understand Eleuthera been having all kinds of problems with water. What is the position of water in Eleuthera today, April the 10th, 2025? What is the position of electricity in Eleuthera, North Eleuthera in particular? And someone who's listening to the show, please call in, man. Y'all are too quiet out there in those family islands. Let us know what is happening. Are you getting sustained water supply? Are you getting sustained electricity supply? Because he said they had no problem. Well, he mentioned about the light over a year. Is that true or false? Because if it's going off and on, that ain't no solution to nothing. If the water going off and on, that's no solution to nothing. If they were getting water like we get in Fort Castle, they ain't got no problem with no water. Bang! It's solved. I hope them people in Portland Castle keep getting their water now because we need our water. We're accustomed to having an excellent flow of water. Mr. Bruce, we have a call on the line. Call you live on air. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Professor,
What kind of water supply you have in your area?
city water,
No.
good
is
water,
Good quality water?
good quality water.
How long you been having it?
Well, it happened from since I know I moved up this way.
How long ago was that?
That was about almost 40 years ago.
Okay. Have you had any major interruptions with water over that
Well,
40-year span?
those, sometimes you have to fix pipe and stuff like that,
I ain't talking about fixing no pipes.
But that, sometimes,
Maintenance is important.
maintenance and stuff like that,
Yes.
pipe bursts in the road and things like that.
No,
So,
that's a temporary thing.
yeah.
And they get it fixed.
That's all. But piggyback on what you said yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I hear the man say, after much fasting and praying.
Yeah, that's
they
what he
always
say.
come?
Well, they
come
always
with
come
this,
with
man?
that talk. You hear what the man say?
Why they
After
always
much
come with
fasting
that
and
talk?
prayer.
But see, I got somebody waiting on me, so I will say what I have to
Okay,
say.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I heard you say yesterday, if it please you, people coming saying, thus said the Lord.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if this year topic or I could wait till the more open line if I don't want to stray away from your topic.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, caller. You go
Okay.
ahead with your comment.
You said yesterday, a whole bunch of people come saying, the Lord tell them this,
Yes.
and the Lord tell them that.
Yes.
Why they don't come straight forward and say what they think or they believe and stuff like that, and always come, but the Lord saying the Lord, don't be telling some of
Tell
these
them
people nothing.
Nothing at all.
You understand?
Yes.
But you see, the woman said the other day, the Lord tell her Lincoln Bing and be the prime minister.
Okay.
Now that's what she say.
All right.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
So these people are not fearful. That's the reason why we see fear need to come back in this land.
Yes, I agree.
Fear need to come back in the home.
Yes.
Fear need to come back in the churches.
Yes.
Because the people do not fear the Lord no more.
Okay.
They using this name loosely.
Very loose. Very loose.
Loosely.
Too loose.
Every Joe bloke will get up tomorrow morning and say what the Lord tells them. And the Bible says in Proverbs 16 and 7, where he say, one of the 7 things I hate, a lying tongue.
Yes, he does.
You understand me?
Yes.
Why are these people causing more damnation on this country?
Yes.
And what it is now, you see in Santo Domingo, 200 and something old people, the building collapsed on them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
I'd forgotten. Yeah.
Professor,
Yes.
I'll
you're
have
right.
more to say on this tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
God
Bring it up
permit.
tomorrow. God, bring it up tomorrow. I believe my producer's telling me they have another caller. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
How you doing, Professor Thompson?
Hey, how are you?
Who you got on the show today?
I have Brother Card right here. He's here as a feature.
How you doing,
every
Brother
Thursday.
Cartwright?
I'm doing well, my brother.
But this Carolina for football ground Bahama.
Yes, I hear you. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, but Cartwright, I want you more. Don't get me wrong, Professor Thompson. You right there, but Cartwright, you're more open. So you open to Professor Thompson. So Cartwright,
Yes, sir.
let me tell you about the water from Ilutra. Okay, I was on the show talking about the water forever. Mr. Thompson know that. You correct me, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that. You did
Huh?
talk. You talked about it, yes.
Okay, Dr. Cartwright and Professor Thompson, listen to the hard truth, not a soft lie. You got to follow the money. When that gentleman got killed and Ilutra with the water tank fall on him,
Yes.
you got to follow that before you go on. Cartwright,
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
we
hear you, my
heard you.
brother.
Yeah, we heard
So
you.
what I'm trying to say to you is, all the problem we having now, it lies on the man who got killed. When they say it's a industrial accident, Professor Thompson,
Yeah.
you cannot put trust in man. You got to put trust in yourself.
Okay.
So follow the money, Cartwright.
Okay.
The truth is lie with the man die, and they say dead man don't talk. We
Yeah,
all are
we
one.
don't.
It comes spiritual.
Yes.
So you got to
Okay.
think like that, Dr. Cartwright. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you all have a good day. I only talk in parables, like it's in the Bible.
Yes.
Parables, so that's the world. They talk in parables. They don't show us nothing in reality. You got to figure it out. You got to put the puzzle together.
But
Yes,
Kendall,
sir.
Kendall, before you go, Jesus explained the parables. You got to explain the parables so we can understand what you said.
Okay, the parable is the gentleman who died,
Yes.
he know everything. He know the secret. So they had to get rid of him. So dead man can't talk. You got to follow the money, Professor.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I understand you now then.
We talking in parables. They got it in the Bible, parables. The world don't talk English. They talk in parables. You got to
Okay.
be smart and educated to figure out what they talking about.
All right. Well, thank you for your contribution.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yes.
Brother Cartwright. Go ahead.
Yes, for a country that is 90% surrounded by water,
All kind of water.
we still have not figured out the way about using reverse osmosis to provide proper, portable, suitable drinking water
Mhm.
for our people. We overshadowed by sunlight
All kind of sunlight.
90%, 98% of the times of the year. We still haven't learned how to harness that energy source
Yes. That's
to
right.
provide and ease
Ease.
the rates
Right.
of electricity for our people. So it is very sad that when you look year after year, every election after election, you see us still having this problem. We spend all kind of money
All kind of money.
for electricity to upgrade and up sources and everything. And when you look, they just had a blackout just recently. And
Yeah.
that's like,
More than half in Providence.
yeah, and I was like, what is happening with this money we keep spending if we ain't getting no
We
result?
get no place. Yes.
I noticed this morning I saw where Pike was planting poles on East Blue Hill Road South, and I was like, is this something that Bahamians from BPL could not
Could
done?
not do.
And I know they've been doing it
sad.
for years, and so
Yes,
it's like,
definitely.
what is Pike bringing to the table that the Bahamian
Themselves cannot
workers
do.
couldn't do?
Yes.
And so when you look at all of these things, and then the Bahamian people are saying it, see, I think our parliamentarians, a lot of them wear, I call it political shades. So they don't see the reality. So when you ask them a question, they'll tell you, no man, things looking good, things great. But they don't even say, when I talk to my constituents, this is their complaint, this is their
Yes.
cry. They come and paint this beautiful picture. But then when you people start to talk to the constituents, it's like, no, that ain't true.
Not so.
And then they start, the reality has hit them like 2 days, I always say 2 days before the election, then you start to watch everybody scrambling, trying to get this done and do this, paint this. Like I told you when I said, we all know when it's time for election. Your yard get cleared down, the bushes get cut down, the derelict vehicles get moved,
That's right.
schools get painted, all this, and then all of a sudden you hear people who've been waiting to be permanent on a job. They've been sitting 5-6 years, and all of a sudden, boom, they automatically they permanent.
Permanent, yeah.
You've had all these other little things you start to see, and you're just like, when are we gonna get out of this cycle?
Yes.
And I remember, like I said, I think I try to remember which constituency, but I know he's out of Grand Bahama. And he said, I don't believe in giving Bahamians free money. And I was like, I can understand if that's your personal money.
Right.
But if you could come up with ideas whereby that the Bahamian public can basically survive and sustain themselves with even whatever tax you have, that they can sustain themselves immensely, maybe you could say that. But when you see Bahamians are now saying, hey man, we can't make it, we are basically living from hand to mouth, then it means that there's something you guys are implementing that is being detriment for these people.
For the people, yeah.
So it's like, you can work hand in hand and do half and half. But Professor, I told someone last night, I said, those in that parliament going to find out a rude awakening from the electorate.
I think they will, yes.
I say,
terrible rude
I
awakening.
said, my friends, families, there's going to be a rude awakening. And if you were not prepared, I can't help you. And so I try to tell people, we've been doing the same old thing
Same
year
old crap, year
and-
in and year out.
and
For
the thing about
52
it,
years.
people, I told them last time before the house closed, and I told a lot of the MPs, I said, listen, man, your best ideas don't come from you, don't come from your generals,
No,
It comes from the ordinary
The
people,
ordinary
who
people.
live in these
they're
communities.
the ones who have it.
Go and talk to them.
Yes.
I say, I can ask you all a lot of questions when you see the house comes back. And I said, but these are the people you got to go back to. And I said, if you ain't doing nothing over the 3.5 years, and you start, I said, people can see through it. They can say, man, I know you only doing it so you can get back in.
I know it.
And people are now, I keep telling them, I said, behemoths are now wide awake. I said, you're going to find out this is going to be, I said, one of the tightest elections. And some people can be very, very disappointed.
Yes.
I think I hear the jingle.
Yeah, I hear it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. I'm delighted to hear Brother Cartwright say how Bahamians are waking up. And Bahamians, I am looking to see you put the right people in the House of Assembly. I can help you on this one now. I can make sure you follow the Constitution and the Holy Bible. Because if you go by the Constitution and the Holy Bible with the character that the scriptures tell you we ought to have in our representatives, we will have a better government. Because we can't have a good government if we have weak-kneed members in the House of Assembly and the Senate. They ain't wicked. All you can end up having is a weak government like we got today. A very weak government. The man ain't got no solutions. You heard from the tape. All he giving us is problems. And he has all that power in his hand, and he can't solve nothing. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break.
Express Yourself Live will return right after this.
Calling all veterinarians, pet lovers, and animal care professionals. Join DLEAP for the inaugural Pet
die. We can make sure you ain't got, when you go, you come out of school, you gotta go look for papers. We can get your papers right and everything you need while you're in school. So when you finish school, if your parents ain't putting you in college, we can give you 3 trades of making money. You ain't run out of ideas. And listen here, just I got one more.
Okay.
That bouncy thing. We just saying that we play with that as a joke, spend all that money on that.
Yes.
We supposed to be feeding ourselves.
Exactly.
Get them, everybody. I kill myself laughing. People think I'm crazy. Why you laughing? We ain't got no eggs, and they start bouncy. Bouncy supposed to be in the hot weather. That's what chickens do, lay egg. But in the cold weather, they don't lay no egg. So we have egg all year round.
Yes,
but
sir.
everybody's sitting down talking foolishness about marijuana in a Christian nation. What y'all is being do? It's gonna make me laugh, man. What y'all being do?
Yes,
And that's all these people I'm talking about. All people say, think I'm listening here. You do not want to say God tell you things because if it don't come true, and the Bible say you have to be stoned. Jeremiah 23. If you right say Vessa, listen here, on big truck and come out the corner today, and that ain't come true. And guess what? They don't stone you, you know. They stone you and your whole family.
That is true.
Remember Daniel chapter 5? I want everybody remember that. If I tell you the Lord say something, you better say it. Like cut right there.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you, Carla. That's very, very a good contribution that he made. We got to stop telling lies to him because, you know, it's a serious matter. In fact, you're going to find that a lot of those persons who told these lies and say it was a God move and all kind of crappy things they say, they never came back to apologize to the Bahamian people. You notice that? They stay right in the dark. We got to stop this foolishness, you know. But they'll surface again, you know. And we got to tell them, get back in the dark where you belong.
Get behind
We
me.
can't keep fooling around with these kind of people. That's why I am saying to the Bahamian people, there are some specific things we need to do. We got the Holy Bible, which is the written word of God. Call it, stay right there, don't go nowhere. And we have the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. I'm going to do my very best with God's help to make sure that Bahamians, you get the right person in every single seat in the House of Assembly. We can't afford to miss that. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something in regards to the prophetess
Yes.
and her word coming true. It is in my opinion that her word did come true. She said that Lincoln Bain would be the prime minister for this government. He would have been physically in Philip Davis' spot. Isn't that the prophecy?
So, no, I didn't get it now. You said,
Everybody's laughing at her and saying that she's not a prophet
okay.
because her word didn't come true.
What did she specifically say?
She said that Lincoln Bain would have been the prime minister of the last election.
He was not prime minister from the last election.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So is that true or false? Well, it didn't come true, right?
Well, Lincoln Bain acted more of a prime minister than
No. You got to get it straight now.
No, we live in reality. You know the truth. I know the truth. But I'm telling you, there's a spiritual world also. Lincoln Bain was more of a prime minister. I'm trying to make a point there. I could do this, you know, what the man said just now. He said a fable or something from Freeport, a parable.
Mm-hmm.
No, we can't see parables have to be explained. All the parables that Jesus made, he tells the clear meaning to the parable.
Well, he told me, I read in his word that he said a parable is a made-up story trying to make a point.
Hold on, caller. Brother
That
Cartwright.
teaches you something.
Yeah.
Brother Cartwright.
Hey, Brother Colbrook.
Hey,
How you doing, man? I mean, I get where you're going at your point there. You were saying that he acted more like the leader of the country than
and he got more things done.
And he made some things happen more than basically the person who was elected in that position.
And he pointed on issues we were interested in.
Well, in that sense, you can say that, but I think most people say, well, okay, and I understand where you're coming from, and I also understand.
That's what I'm saying.
And so when you see people are elected, and I keep trying to emphasize this to many of the parliamentarians, what is your goal or what is your legacy you want to leave after 5 years or more? And if you can't come up with a reasonable answer, and this is why I say to the Bahamian public, you know, some people get mad when I say, listen, first you have to be elected into the parliament to have some effect on the growth of the nation. You can do it from the outside, yes, but so far. But see, because once you cannot be in that parliament to pass laws or to make an input or have a say on the law, that's the difference. So
Well, the reality
Yes.
and the activism of it.
it's good.
I'll tell you this right now, professors right there, Sidney Thompson, is more of a prime minister to me than the one sitting. I only hear reports from through people, writers, when he pop up to say apologize, error here, there, or something like that. Okay, that if that's what a prime minister does, I would like a prime minister telling me, we've fed up with this illegal immigration. We're fed up, and we're going to give you your sovereign wealth money back. We can cut you in. That's a prime minister.
Yes.
At
This
least
man's a dictator,
yes.
and all the dirty words they say about him.
Okay.
Lincoln Bain behaved more like a prime minister to me
Yes.
than this guy.
Well,
Okay, all
but
right,
I understand
okay, I
that.
You see
understand
my
what you're
point?
saying,
Yes,
yeah.
I do.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Okay. Well, I might have misunderstood what he
Yes.
said. That's why I asked you
Yes.
to talk to it.
Yeah, because like what most people are saying now, the general public is saying, listen, we elect people to represent our interests.
Yes.
It's like people are saying, one guy said to me the other day, he said, when Dr. Minnis was the prime minister, he did nothing that I was really impressed with.
Okay.
And he said, now that he's not prime minister, I've started to see him take a different shift. Like he had an epiphany.
Right.
And I said, well, he might have an epiphany, but the one thing you got to realize that in this Bahamas, prime ministers are basically appointed through the movement of God influencing the people.
That is
And I
true,
said, just like Saul, he was given an opportunity
yes.
and he missed it.
Missed it.
And I
completely.
said, what he doesn't understand, that opportunity will not come again.
No, it wouldn't.
Now, you might still get elected, but that top chair that you wish for, that opportunity didn't pass.
That done pass. You're quite right about that. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
All right, Professor Thompson, Dr. Cartwright.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say something with the gentleman who just called, Colebrook.
Yes.
Remember, Professor Thompson, I called one show ago, and you asked that gentleman, he talks soft and easy. He's so smart and everything cool. But you asked him if what do you think about Africa being in Arizona, and he said, I don't listen to no WhatsApp and Facebook stuff. I never criticized him, Mr. Thompson. Ever
Okay.
since I'm listening on the show.
All right.
But Mr. Thompson.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I like to have a meeting face to face. Yeah, and we could go head to head with our knowledge. See, he don't books of this world. I don't spiritual. He cannot win. Yeah. Y'all have a good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any
All
caller? I can read some of this on
Yeah,
Facebook.
please do, Mr. Carter.
Okay, we have Mr. Sidney Thompson. I think he was referring to Mr. Petty said he had to resign or wasn't asked to be renominated because of the scandal with the water. Then Skidoo said, yes, that's what he mentioned. Then Richard Brown said, good afternoon. This is the weakest opposition in the Bahamas in Bahamian history. This supposed to be an easy election win. Bahamians supposed to be getting ready for an early election. This is a lousy opposition. They talking so much with no action. The FNM has already decreased the campaign funding spending from 2017. Both administration hasn't done anything in these constituencies in the last 8 years.
Okay.
Ms. Sandra Kerry, this man needs to stop judging and stop throwing stones. Sandra Kerry, Grant can't give what he don't have. Richard Brown, the best ideas is coming from the poor people who are either from the ghetto or who come from the ghetto. Stanley
Okay.
Johnson, you can go up again. Stanley Johnson, all right. Go back a bit. Let's see. Okay, we didn't read this one. I'm looking for Stanley Johnson. I think he made a comment. Oh, okay. I don't see that there from Stanley, but I know he was making such a comment. But now we got Miss Kerry saying that the reason that the people can't go to the embassy because they're not Bahamians and they're trying to get there because they're getting run out.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to leave it that tomorrow. That we can open up the line on that one.
Yes.
Because the Hollingsworth said that no one came to him. So that's rather strange. Very, very strange. Yeah. Okay. So we just have to see. Maybe they're not Bahamians. Maybe that's probably true. I don't know. Okay. We have another call, Mr. Cartwright. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
I just want to say to you all, as for me and my household, I get 4 votes in my house. Me and Seabrace and me be voting COI.
Okay.
All right, caller. Okay. Now he has this. That's
Anything else, caller?
Is he still on the line?
Hello?
I think he's gone. Mr. Bruce, is he still on the line? He's gone. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, I don't have a problem with people expressing their view on a particular political party if that's how they feel. But let's go a little deeper than that. I think what Bahamians are missing, and a point that I've been stressing all along. See, when I talk about separation of party versus government, the Bahamian people don't have that fully into their psyche. Having a political party is one thing. Having a government is another thing. The system is such where persons who are in the government have to either be in the Senate or in the House of Assembly. All right? So that's understood. What I'm saying, Bahamians, is political parties, even though you gave them a massive landslide of seats where they had no difficulty whatsoever in bringing about righteous legislation to benefit the Bahamian people. Not a living one of them has done that. To the point where we have major national problems, major constituency problems having been solved. I think that's the point you people are missing. While that particular personality may like a particular political party, the political party ain't solving nothing. We got the PLP in there right now with 32 seats. Name the major national problems this current administration has been solved since they were there. And these are the clear-cut benefits that we are getting now. That is what you're missing, Bahamians. Am I the only one who could see that?
I think, Professor, people might perceive that we are saying that do not vote for this party or don't vote for this one.
Okay, let me explain. Let me explain that. Okay, all right, if they perceive that, but thank you, Brother Cartwright, for that input. What I'm saying, Bahamians, is this. Let's look at the track record that the electorate has done, right? We have been giving political parties all this authority, all this power, like the current one we got now, 32 seats. Okay, let's understand that. What is missing, Bahamians, is when I look at the record, I do not see any major constituency problems being solved in the particular constituency. I could talk about the one where I am. I don't see that happening. I don't see any strong parliamentary representation in my constituency. I do not see those persons who are running the country solving any major national problems that we're confronted with. Now the Prime Minister can talk about how resilient the Bahamian people are. He spoke and we played the tape. All he did was talk about problems. You mean the man got all this power, and the office of Prime Minister is very powerful.
Oh, definitely.
I don't even know if he understands how powerful the office is. But I'm saying to you, the man has the power in his hand to help us. And all he could do is talk about problems. You can see what he could, them fellas from Washington and them fellas in the Caribbean. Come on, give me a break, man. What we need is we need people with character who are going to look at the situation in this country, and if they are in the cabinet, they're going to make decisions that are for the best interest of the Bahamian people. That is what is missing. The quality of people you are putting in the House of Assembly and in the Senate is the real problem. In other words, what we need to do when we go to the vote, we need to look at the candidates that are there. Or we can take this option. Nothing in the Constitution says that constituents could not come together and decide on one who lives right in their own constituency and send that one to the House of Assembly. You got to be on a political party. Maybe we need to take that route. Let's find a person who is righteous, because the scripture tells you in Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. You show me where there's any rejoicing in any one of these constituencies. Show it to me. I don't see it in Centerville. I don't see it in Fox Hill. I don't see it in any constituency on the island of New Providence. Now, them family island people talk for themselves. I am saying to you, Bahamians, we should see hardcore results. We're not getting that. You have political personalities sitting in parliamentary seats, but there are no solutions, Bahamians, to the problems we have at the constituency level and at the national level. That's what I'm talking about. So maybe we need to look carefully at the people we send to the House of Assembly and the particular personalities who are appointed to the Senate, because we are not getting value for our money. And I'm not saying that, see, the political party puts up a candidate.
Yes.
Right? The constituents who live in the constituency, that's why the Constitution says 38 or more what? Constituencies, Bahamians. Come on, man. What is stopping the constituents in a given constituency finding the right person to send to the House of Assembly? What's stopping them? Nothing. But if you're going to leave it to political party, and you see the track record of these political parties over the last 52 years, how much more time you want to give them, Bahamians? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you must have any hatred toward any political party. I am saying what is stopping the constituents from coming together, enough of them, 51% or more of them, choosing one of their own, since the party can't find no one, because don't look as if they could find anyone. What is stopping us from choosing one of our own to send to the House of Assembly? Just put him on an independent ticket, send him to the House. What's stopping us from doing that? Nothing. Nothing in law, constitution law, prevents us from doing that. Because we've been depending on the political parties, and this particular person who called in just recently in the show say he's voting for that particular party, fine. But the point is, the person who heads that political party runs in a particular constituency, or they'll have that particular person run in a particular constituency. Only the people in that particular constituency who are on the register of voters, I like to use the term eligible persons on the register to vote in the general election. So the thing is, you are choosing a representative, and those representatives elected will choose one of their own in that house, who will be named eventually as the prime minister. You can understand the system, Bahamians? Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Cartwright.
Professor, when you think about it, we've had 39 members of parliament. And when you reflect back over a 5-year period, we have not had 39 good legislation. We have not had 39 members of our parliament at one time or another just presented a good legislation for the benefit of not only their constituents, but for the country as a whole.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm always saying, people say, well, they got to put this, and I say, what is the use of us putting all of these people into the parliament if they're not going to step up to the plate and say, listen, I think we need to do this different. We need to step up and do some things for the country, for my community. You don't hardly see that no more, because when you watch and you sit back and you reflect on it, think of this now. There are some members of parliament, if you don't go to parliament, you wouldn't even know they exist.
Exactly, that's correct.
Because they don't make no contribution.
None whatsoever.
And I just asked people, since I said, why do we need such a large cabinet? Everyone's like, oh, well, this. I said, hold on. There's nothing that says that the Parliament cannot make an amendment to that article, which
Of
says
course.
we have so many people that it says a minimum of 9.
Right.
But I said the problem is we've never closed the gap.
Never close it.
I said we need to
Leave it
now
wide open.
we need to now close that door on how many people can sit
In the cabinet. Exactly.
So that's where a change that we can have whereby that yes, you might have the majority, but now because those people are not in the cabinet and now you have an opposition, those who are in the cabinet must convince those who are not in the cabinet, whatever idea that they want to put forward that they claim is going to benefit the Bahamian people, they have to sell that idea to those people who are not in the cabinet.
And the cabinet has never, ever thought about that.
No.
In 52 years, baby. You see, this is what I keep saying about them. All they've done was that, and these funny things, talking about state minister, talking foolishness and nonsense. We could put it at a maximum of 9 and shut the door and have a referendum and say, okay, we close the door on that.
Yes.
And it would be done, Bahamians. You can't say these people didn't have the authority to do it.
Yes,
they have the numbers right now. They could go in the House tomorrow, have the referendum, and bang, it's settled before the next general election. Come on, Bahamians, man. We got to wake up, man. I don't know why we have suffered so long for 52 years, man. But this crap from the government of the Commonwealth of Bahamas, they're the biggest culprits of violation of constitutional law. These are the harsh realities you have to face, Bahamians. Your parliamentary representatives represent you on 2 things. 1, the constituency. 2, at the national level. That's all you have, Bahamians, in the Constitution. You have nothing more than that. He represents you at the national level when it comes to national problems, and he represents you at the constituency level when it comes to constituency problems. I think I got to go now. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Bahamians, please be safe. We're going to be here tomorrow, open line tomorrow, and we're going to talk more about some things we didn't get in today. Bahamians, be prepared for tomorrow. Pray and ask God to help us to save this place, man. Stick with the Holy Bible. Stick with the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. They are always right. You hear nobody else tell you that. But you heard from Professor Sidney Walter Thompson because it's the truth. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Have a pleasant afternoon.